Oh.
Okay, so it is a day later than normal for Echoes from the Void, but because we had the great, the powerful, the odd, and the Snoopy-less Matt Hulse. How you doing, Matt?
Hulse.
Hulse,
like pulse.
No, I think you're pronouncing it wrong. No.
All my life.
You don't know how to pronounce your own
No
name.
wonder I don't have a wife or a mortgage or a job or a pension.
How are you doing, man?
I'm very good. Thank you for inviting me back.
No worries at all.
I've had lots of exercise and sunshine, as we were discussing before you pressed record.
It's been a pretty hot week, really.
Hot. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yes. But it's great because my local part, Weaversfield. I mean, I know it so well now, having kind of probably spent more time there than anywhere else last year and a bit, and yeah, so familiar with all the locals milling about, and everyone seems quite cheerful and relaxed. It's a good vibe.
Nice. Now, the funny thing is, you're talking about the weather being so hot. I was flicking through the BBC website and I saw I don't know, right? So you've got BBC Sounds, which is I think the name of their podcast audio section. And Scarlett Moffat, who I know she's from some reality bullshit, but I can never think, I'm not sure which thing.
Well, not from our reality bullshit then.
But yeah, she's got a podcast, and a question they seem to have poised to is, why do you never see tanned vampires? And I'm just
what are they getting at here?
I have no clue. I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, they are dead. It's just like, they're fucking dead.
And they're only around at night. Contrary sun, are they?
No, it's just the sun kills them. You know what I mean? Like, that is, an affliction of a vampire. Being out in the sun doesn't go hand in hand.
No, so it's kind of knowledge 101, isn't it? That's the first thing anyone knows.
Yeah, you'd have thought. But I think it just goes to show why reality TV is a curse, a scourge, because it's full of uneducated morons.
Well, no, but then do you remember the early series of Big Brother? I think it might have been second series. Was it Helen from Swansea? She would come out with stuff a bit like that, and I kind of loved her by the end of it. And I think my favourite thing she said was, "I love blinking me."
Oh, that one. Yeah. No, I know who you're talking. Oh, was that the second
season? Didn't attempt the lovely South Walian accent, but yeah, I love blinking me.
No, because I remember, because my whole thing with because I remember I'd watched a little, like, bits of that, right? And I thought, the first season definitely seemed like real people living in a house that really did not get on with each other. But then after that, I remember it might have been the second season, there was a guy who brought his guitar in, and he would sit there every now and then and start like, it'd be like, okay, we understand. You think you might get a record deal out of this, and it just, because it's like, once you know you're being filmed, it's no longer, it becomes staged.
Yeah,
it's not the thing that this show is meant to be, so it all becomes a bit pointless, really.
Yeah, but I guess that's the sort of power of it, though, isn't it? Because we know that they know that they're being filmed, but they can't. Because if I was being, I am being filmed now. No, before you hit record, I was a completely different character, wasn't I? I was the cat in the box, and Schrodinger's like raising questions.
Like I think it would. I think the way that show would work, right, is if they shove you in this place, but they don't tell you when they're going to start filming.
Yeah.
So say you have to be in there, say, for 3 months, but they're only filming a month's worth of stuff. So they're not going to tell you when they're going to actually start.
Yeah.
And I think then you'll get some real shit, because people then start to relax, because it's just like, well, it's probably not even started yet. So, and then you will see, what these people actually are.
Oh, the big joke could be that they don't film anything at all.
Oh shit! So oh man, I would love that. I would. Oh my gosh! On the last day, we'd be like, yeah, just so you know, we forgot to press play. Yeah, we forgot to press play. So yeah, nothing happened. That would be fucking tremendous. Oh man, but things that seem like they have gone in a crazy direction is our old buddy, old Kimmy Jong-un over in Korea. Yeah. Well, I mean, I should probably say South Korea, right?
North Korea.
North Korea, not the good Korea,
or DPRK.
Yeah. Yes. He has banned, well, supposedly, all forms of foreign influence, including you can no longer wear jeans. Can no longer.
Yeah, it was jeans, slang, and foreign movies, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying to you before we hit record, I know the country fairly well because I was a tour leader to North Korea through a company called Koryo Tours based in Beijing. So I have some insider insight.
A tour leader, or were you
trips. So we would have international tourists from across the world, with the exception of South Korea. So anyone in the world can travel to, well, not at the moment, but used to be able to travel to North Korea.
Yeah.
Apart from South Koreans, and but more recently there was a ban on Americans. But that didn't exist when I was doing the job. There were plenty of Americans in our tours. Yeah, so I'd have a group of maybe 12 to 17 tourists, and then there would be, depending on the size of the trip and its purpose, if it was for a big celebration like a May Day event or the Mass Games or something, there might be 6 or 7 coach loads. So there would be, I'd be maybe me and another 5 or 6 tour leaders. And then each coach is a tour leader, the tourist, and then you have 2 guides. There's this local North Korean fluent English speaking guides that have gone through the tourism school, language schools, and they're your pals for the whole thing. And there's my experience of those guys, at least, was incredibly positive. Really lovely people, really funny, very funny actually. The humor is quite close to what we might think of British humor. So there's quite Python-esque in there, like surrealism, spotting like surrealism. And I think it's partly this. Well, it's interesting because I came to the conclusion that their humor came from a kind of place of repression.
Yeah.
Repressed humor. And I thought, well, that's interesting that that's signature for British humor as well. But yeah,
I mean, I heard Anne Frank killed every time she did a set. You know what I mean? It breeds the humor out of you being in certain situations.
Yeah, well, in fact, you say that the diaries they are very funny in parts. But the yeah, so yes, like I say, I do have some insight on it. So any article written in the Western press about North Korea, I take with some caution and quite a lot of pinches of salt, I have to say. Um, and one of the great things about going to that country is you get to see the flip of reality as it's spun in the West.
Mm.
And yeah, sure, there's shit things going on there, and I mean, it is very difficult for people that have to live there, especially if they're outside the city. In Pyongyang, it's quite. I mean, Pyongyang's quite kind of up to date, really. In modern things, taxis, hotels, bars, all of it. But yeah, out in the countryside, yeah, it's rural poor, you know. And
Yeah.
as for things like camps and all of that, I mean, we don't go around in our coach and look at camps. You can't really raise it as a question. Yeah, it's just really complicated. It's not really enough. I mean, it's not a long enough situation we're here to really get into the politics of it, I don't think. But when I read this article, so it's, Kim Jong Un is seen there issuing these strict edicts. It's like any politician in any country, they need to be seen to be behaving a certain way.
Yeah.
And what they say isn't necessarily what happens on the ground as a result. So I would need to, my instinct would be to call up Simon from Courier Tools and saying, what is this? What's the reality? But what are your people in Pyongyang saying? Because there might be some other reason he said this at this point in time. It's usually like strategic play, but certainly the almost every tour guide that I worked with there had seen Titanic, for example, and they would bring that up as a conversation. So, what do you think of Titanic? So they have access to USBs with, probably put them in trouble now by saying that, but they have accessed Western films, not necessarily very good ones.
Yes. It's a form of torture. They're like, yes, we saw Jupiter ascending. Oh, we saw Titanic. Cats is coming next week. We can't wait.
Yeah, and it's kind of, yeah, so I did get into some conversations, and there's also karaoke is really popular. So they have these in the hotel you stay in, there's this fat book of karaoke choices, and it included "Fuck You" by Lily Allen.
Yeah, I would not have thought that song would have been allowed. Okay.
Or in any karaoke, let alone in North Korea. That was incredible. And the guides, everyone would do their turn, and they would just do like sort of nationalist songs or whatever, or this one called Arirang, which is a sort of folklore folk song that greatly celebrated. Everyone in the country knows it, and they teach it to the tourists, and it's one of those things. But yeah, and then the tourists would just do whatever they were doing, usually American Pie, unfortunately. Far too long. And anyway, there's one little story I can tell you relating just briefly to what does the North Korean know of Western popular culture. So I was a New Year's Day trip to a town called Kaesong. So you go from Pyongyang to Kaesong on this amazing deserted highway, and it was early January, and I asked one of the guys. I said, "Hey, when is Kim Jong Un's birthday?" And he said, "Oh, January the 8th." I went, "Oh wow, do you realize that's the same day as Elvis Presley?" And he was like, "Who?" How is it possible that anyone in the world has not heard of Elvis Presley? And then I got this whole thing going in my head, and I thought, who else is January? Oh yeah, David Bowie. Interesting. And then I started thinking about the hair of Kim Jong Un, Elvis Presley, and David Bowie,
Yeah.
which is kind of astrological, fancy about. Yeah, and they're all, and Kim Jong Un is very keen on his music as well.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there seems to be something there. But back to the genes thing. I mean, that I have to say, it just makes me laugh because that was the classic thing in the old East Europe situation, wasn't it? It was this sort of what I thought was a myth that you'd go there and people come up to you and saying, "Can you please, here is 1,000 million zloty. Can you send me a pair of jeans when you get back?"
Yeah. Yes.
And I thought that was like a myth, but I went to Prague in '89, and sure enough, someone came up and said, "Could you send me some jeans and some Beatles records?"
Yeah, it was weird that there's
No.
certain items that got banned.
Yeah. And my reaction was like, "Oh, don't be a stereotype. There's other bands. I mean, even the Stones, it's just slightly better."
No, but you should have sent them something by the Ladybirds or something like that. You'd be like, you said
The Fall,
you said Beatles. Ladybird is a Beatle, essentially.
Well, here's a collection of pin people. But one thing you may not realise, we're talking in terms of attire, is that in 1939, Kim Il Sung pressed his scientists and designers into creating a new fabric because they couldn't import anything, there's the political philosophy of the country is called Juche, which is combination of Marxist Leninism and then this other bit they've added in, which is all about self-reliance. So there's a whole culture of self-reliance, and they don't envy anything else in the world. They don't need anything else. They can do everything themselves, which isn't necessarily a bad philosophy. It's gone a bit wrong there, I think. But,
Yeah.
So they put all this resources into inventing this fabric called vinylon, which I think it was only 2 years earlier the US had created nylon. And everything, all clothing, but as far as you can see, is made out of this stuff, right? Vinylon. And it's a combination. I did some research of it. It's a combination of processed coal and limestone extracts.
Huh.
And so you may have seen pictures of the classic, if you like, North Korean woman in a formal dress with these incredibly colourful yellow, pink, and blue, poofy dresses that they wear for the mass dance. That's going to be vinylon. The guys all basically wear exactly the same things, which are vinylon suits, shirts. They're all just in a uniform of that. And Mr. Kim, one of our guides, famously said, "Ah, yes, vinylon is the the king of fibers. It is warm in summer and cold in winter."
That's just what you want from a fiber. Oh man! But can you imagine, right? They'll have something like one of those knife amnesties, or officials standing there with boxes and people having to drop their jeans into it. I kind of feel this could be the thing that brings Kim down, right?
Well, he's not. I mean, if he's been looking at his history books, it's not far wrong, is he? Because that is what ultimately changed, the Soviet Europe situation. It was kind of that creep of desire for jeans. Really, it sort of boils down to. But the thing is, I never saw a single North Korean wearing jeans. Literally not. And so you imagine the tourists who are almost all in jeans really stand out. And we weren't told not to wear jeans, but it was kind of, if there was, when you go to the mausoleum, for example, to visit the bodies, the previous leaders in state, there's a whole show there, Kevin. I could talk about that for days. It's so weird. But anyway, then you had to wear you were told to, you bring a suit. It's
Yeah.
specified in detail. And I often say that it took the might of the North Korean state to get me into a tie.
But I mean, that's similar to, because I believe there's places like you can't go into the Vatican in shorts and things like that.
Because it's too tempting for the.
Well, yes, you know what I mean? They, like, if they see ankles, they go crazy.
Yeah.
It's baffling, right? I kind of feel the church is the one thing that can't get cancelled, right?
Yeah.
You'll have producers that might have said to one of the actresses, "Oh, lovely haircut," and they're gone, they are offset. But a priest can kill a load of kids, bury them under the church, and he'd be like, he lapsed slightly. Like an official tried to resign, and the Pope wouldn't accept his resignation, which is just like.
It's really interesting. I've had a few discussions recently actually about Catholicism and the idea of redemption and forgiveness and that sort of confession specifically. And it's quite clever as a religion if you work confession into it, because basically you can do anything.
Yeah.
Right. As long as you then confess. So it's sort of got a weird insurance policy where but you're like locked into it. You can't really get out of it. And in fact, Julie who's has a Catholic father background, and she was telling me about the people in her local town are trying to leave the church, but they have to go through this quite elaborate, because of these allegations and scandals. They're just like, I can't be doing that anymore. But it's quite a difficult thing to do. You have to go through quite a number of stages of self-excommunication. You can't just go, I don't really believe in that anymore, and walk away. You're still a Catholic. You have to kind of it's weird, because that would mean you still believe it if you think you have to go through those things.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Because if you're no longer down with it, you're just like, I don't believe in any of that. It's like you don't believe in. You feel like, I don't believe in Father Christmas anymore, but you're still putting up a tree and having some cookies and milk, waiting for him every year. Be like, wait, I thought you didn't believe. And be like, well, just in case. Just in case. Yeah. You'd think it'd be like that scene in the US Office when Michael Scott gets told about bankruptcy and he gets it all wrong, and he stands up and he's like, I declare bankruptcy. Like, I am no longer Catholic. And then you just march off, listening to rock and roll or something.
Yeah, and then there's everyone in their frocks go, oh, that's what you think you are. You are.
Yeah, it's an odd thing. It's an odd thing how numbers don't dwindle. A football team can get relegated, and fans stop going in protest, but the church still the same amount of people going on a Sunday, even regardless of the what comes out in the press that week.
Yeah, well, I guess that's faith, isn't it?
They have managed to put in place a very good system, when it comes to financial gain.
Ooh. You're like moments away from preparing a Molotov cocktail and running out into the streets, aren't you?
Well, I mean, they can't touch me. I don't believe. I'm not going to get struck down by anyone because I don't believe they can do it.
And you can always say sorry.
Well, no, but the way I see it, right? If this dude is meant to be all loving and all forgiving, then surely can take some jokes, right?
Yeah.
You die, and then it turns out, oh, there is a pearly gate, and then you walk up to him and be like, oh, I wonder what's here. You knock on the door and be like, all right, how's it going? And he's like, no, you said some mean things about me, so you can go stick it.
Like, oh no, heaven is like the dole office. Yeah, I would say. I mean, if my god would be humor and music, probably some combination of that. I mean, there's those two things are pretty inalienable.
Yes.
Even I don't know if you've read Primo Levi, If This Be a Man, his accounts from, was it Auschwitz? Anyway, I mean, it's kind of absolutely destroying book, but incredible to read. This is what humans can get up to, how awful they can be. But the music and the humor there never really, it didn't die. Even though it was these poor Jewish performers from whatever symphony not orchestras that were sort of forced to play for the captain's table, whatever. But even so, it was kind of it never left that space, even how grim it was.
Yeah. When you look,
the idea, God is everywhere, or whatever. Then that there's some. That's a little bit of evidence of my theory that God is music and humor. I need to tighten up my argument, but good go.
Oh shit! Yeah, maybe. But I mean, a thing that shows that humans can do many different things. I think we've seen that this week. Really, you know what I mean? Because it would seem that humans can fight crocodiles.
Well, I was wondering how you were going to link to that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, we've had YouTubers against legitimate boxing greats. We've now had human against crocodile, and human won. Huzzah!
To link it back to Auschwitz. No, you don't need to do that.
Yeah, a couple of sisters went swimming. Oh God, where the fuck were they? They were obviously in a foreign country. Mexico. They were in Mexico. No, they were in Lancashire. Yes, they went swimming in Lancashire, and a crocodile came out of the local lake. Although that would be amusing as hell. I've often kind of thought to myself, wouldn't it be a funny prank to put a crocodile in one of these kind of estuaries, one of these, and you just see the locals go for their wild swim and then just get eaten by a croc. I mean, it makes me chuckle.
Sig, if that's all right.
Huh?
I'm going to smoke a cig, if that's all right. Is this allowed on this show?
I mean, if you want to throw your life away, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Matthew.
I'm already doing that right now.
Okay.
Well, according to people from Yorkshire, there will be crocodiles in Lancashire. Anyway, I've got it. But remember this, when we get onto the sport related theme. Julia, actually, because I should explain, Julia is my German pen pal and artistic collaborator and girlfriend. That I told her about topics earlier, and she's just Facebook messaged a couple of thoughts which I might chip in with, because
it'd be interesting to get
things I necessarily agree with.
Let's see if we can throw young Julia under the bus. Yes.
You're a bendy, but
She's not here to defend herself.
yeah, but she'll get retribution. She'll make you speak German for the rest of your life. But just talking of going under bridges, no, under buses, under buses. Someone said the other day they've got this friend who mixes up his metaphors, and he said, "Yes, that guy really threw himself under a bridge." The image.
Oh man! So I remember there's that REM song. Is it Night Swimming?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on them, but familiar.
But for years I thought it was Night Fishing. And I'd be like, night fishing, but I always wondering, be like, how the fuck do you fish at night? I don't know how you know the fish are there. Like, like, how is this happening? And then someone pointed out to me, I think it was like years. I've been, saying night fishing all this time, and then like, it's swimming.
It's powerful, isn't it? Misheard lyrics, because you literally hear the thing that you think is being said, like, against all the clear evidence. One of those is don't know if you know the song "Rat Trap" by Boomtown Rats. There's a bit in the middle where it goes, "Billy, take a walk, take a walk, take a walk. Billy, take a walk, take a walk, take a walk." And as a 10 or 11-year-old, I thought that was Billy tick-a-woo, tick-a-woo, tick-a-woo. And I was singing that one day, and my brother went, "What are you singing?" I said, "Billy tick-a-woo." He said, "Well, what's that?" I said, "Oh, it's a kind of dance." I'd invented this whole thing in my head where they were sort of, Billy was doing the tick-a-woo.
But I love the fact that you don't know, you have no clue. But in your head, you've made up what the fuck this thing is. Yeah. There's no evidence to point to, your breakdown at all. But for some reason, you've got, well, obviously, a tickle-woo is a famous dance.
It's like how fake news operates, isn't it? You just come up with some preposterous and then find the evidence. Any evidence.
Indeed. So do you think, what about evidence? Do you think a crocodile really did attack these sisters?
I have no reason not to believe it, and I really want to believe it. The thing that really struck me particularly was that it was twins. I found that very powerful. Really, and as an idea that so it's kind of one, the crocodile took on the wrong woman, because there was, her identity there to protect herself.
Hey, hold on, didn't I just bite you? I thought I drowned you. How the hell are you still here? What's going on?
Yeah, and she had the presence of mind, from what the article says. So I've often wondered about this. I sometimes go off of these sort of fantasies where I'm in a forest in Canada or something, and then I face a bear, and I immediately think, the thing with bears is you're supposed to roll into a ball and not move, right? So I've got that. It's like, okay, I get into that situation, I'm sorted. And she said in this article that before she's a trained diver, isn't she? She kind of navigates water really well. That before she went in to rescue her sister, she so I thought I would go and punch the crocodile, because I'd heard that works with some animals.
Yes, it does. Just not crocodiles. You'd be like, yes, it works on badgers, rabbits, and guinea pigs.
Yeah, and my
does not work on water beings like crocodiles, hippos, rhinoceroses.
Also, was she punching underwater? I mean, that's like,
yes, there's no power.
You throw your punch, it's just going to kind of slide off this slippy crocodile.
But it's going so slow. You're like,
yeah.
And the crocodile's like, wait, what the fuck is she doing? Does she think that's gonna work? Oh, is she cute?
Yeah.
She thinks that's gonna work.
Here comes the pound of sausages.
but she I feel is a little amusing. Now, listen, you know, yes, it's great she was able to save her sister. You know what I mean? I'm not wishing her sister was to die. But I think it's amusing to think that she thinks her little punch was the thing. Was the thing. You know, I can imagine now. She's anytime someone comes up to her and she'd be like, I fucked a crocodile up with this. Do you really want some? Do you really want some? Because this fucked up a crocodile. And you just like,
I'm very, very impressed by it. And but also I thought about, if you think about crocodiles' snouts, they do have sort of like quite punchable noses, don't they? So there's a weak spot there. And even if crocodile's going to have some kind of pride, you know, being punched in the nose it's going to wound it, maybe emotionally. It loses a bit of courage.
But he's underwater, so how will we know if there were crocodile tears?
Oh.
That's the question. I mean, that's the story here. I mean, that's what they missed.
We need to sample the water and do some tests. Because what they're doing, because actually the biggest danger seems to be that they've got cuts and then water that's full of, I don't know, COVID or whatever.
Yes, they always do say do not drink the water in Mexico. So yeah, she's now full of that water, which is you know, maybe not the thing.
Yeah.
But I the one thing I always wonder, right? Because you always see it in films, and they're going somewhere and they dive into these lakes, or they go, oh, we gotta get across the river, and they just wade in, and I'm always like, all right, that's all well and good, but is there nothing in that? Like, how do we not know there's no, you know, gators, anacondas, just anything that can fuck you up, right? There never seems to be any of those things in those lakes they dive into. So I always kind of wonder, especially abroad, right? Should I jump into this water here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm a bit like, why did they not check? Did they not check that this was not a, you know, a gator situation? Because even if, right, know what, there'd be none seen in there, right? If there's some just across the way, that you know, they can travel, right? They would be like, oh, we're tired of this bit of water. Let's go and oh, there's a lake over there. Let's go and have a little gator. You know what I mean? So I'm a bit like, what were they doing? Jumping into just any old water?
Yeah, I don't know. But were they just was that it? Were they were swimming, were they?
Yeah.
Right.
They'd gone swimming, and
Right.
she I think she turned around and noticed her sister wasn't there. Which, I mean, if I turned around and didn't see someone, my first thing wouldn't be, I think they might have been got them. I'd be like,
but I think she went and looked for her, and then saw what and then was presumably very surprised by what she saw.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you wouldn't want to be in that situation, really, would you?
Not well. I think the big thing is, because you're thinking, all right, yes, there's one, but is there more?
Yeah.
You know, and I think as she was trying to bring her out, the gator kept on coming back.
Yeah. Ugh, horrible.
I think what the thing with alligators, right, and crocodiles, I believe, now I might be wrong here. It's a bit like Halley's Comet, and it doesn't happen often, but I may be wrong in what I say, so don't shoot me. but I believe crocodiles are one of the only animals that will kill just to kill. You know, because most animals will kill to feed, but crocodiles are just like, yeah, fuck it. I just feel like taking that person out, and they'll just kill something, but not necessarily to eat it.
Gosh, it reminds me of I think it's probably the most recent Terminator, and they have these horrible little things. And I mean, it's exactly the same scene as the gators in the river, but it's these horrible sort of, waterborne horrible killing devices that are like something between a swordfish and a sperm that move at great speed with lights in their eyes.
I don't remember. I know I saw it, but I don't remember. It wasn't memorable, really, as a film. Oh man, but yeah, no, because they will just drown you. So they don't necessarily try and consume you straight away. They'll barrel roll you, drown you, and then if they do want to eat you, they'll come back for you, as it were. So
is that why Tarzan and Johnny Weissmuller in those old films is constantly rolling around with crocodiles?
I think they were trying to synchronize swim. They try to work out their routine for the Olympics. That's what that was.
Make this bodybuilder wrestling with an unsinkable object look like.
Oh man, but yeah, no, definitely a crazy situation to be confronted with a fucking crocodile. But it does make you wonder, are you going to have any sort of hesitation now getting back into certain bodies of water?
Yeah, well, I always have a hesitation. I'm a bit scared of water, actually, large bodies of water. I don't really like the what lurks beneath thing. It's not. No, never. Even if I'm just like paddling around in Hastings or something, I'm still kind of like, oh, what's down there?
Oh dear. Like I mean, I like surfing, right? And I'll go to Cornwall, Wales. I'll surf there. I have no intention of surfing in another country because I'm a bit like, yeah, there's sharks. I'm like, why the fuck am I going to go somewhere? Because I know that, I'll jump on my board to try and escape, and I will fall off. I will fall off. I will do something stupid, and my ass is getting eaten. You know what I mean? I don't believe. I don't think this is going to stop a shark. It might work on a crocodile. I don't think it's going to work on a shark.
But in some deep recess of my mind, I feel like I've heard a story of punching a shark on a nose. Or does it happen in one of the jaws?
Oh no. So supposedly some when you've seen some of these attacks, right? There's I think there was a surfer might have been earlier this year, and I think they lost a leg, but they did punch. They said they repeatedly punched it, and they were able. Oh no, there was one. I think it was in Australia, and a guy got bitten, and people came out to help and were punching it, and it went, but he'd been mauled so bad he died. But yeah, I think if you punch them, you can sometimes get away, but it's not a
not a situation I'm gonna run towards. Put it that way.
Yes. But yeah, no, I do have a hesitation to get into some bits of water if I know there are, deadly things in it.
So the guy lost a leg, which that includes a knee, of course.
Oh,
the knee.
I think I see what you just did there. Yeah. I think factually it's not. Sometimes it's just the ankle. I think sometimes it's not always the knee. Yeah. No, but yes, there is a new controversy about kneeling at football games.
Hmm.
You know, and we will say football. We will not resort to be calling it soccer like those Philistines across the pond, because it is ludicrous. It is football. You kick it with your foot. All right, yes. But yeah.
Sock it with your foot.
No, but you're wearing shoes, so it's not sock. It should be at least shoe ball. You know what I mean? If you want to be factually correct, or boot ball. You know what I mean? There's a sock. No, but your socks are in something. So it's sock is stupid. They're foolish. They're foolish people. But yeah, people are booing the football players who are still, because I think Gareth Southgate, the England manager, came out this week and said that the England team will still be kneeling because it's the I want to say the European Championships coming up, I think. So yes, England will be kneeling before each game, and fans aren't really keen on it.
So, some fans.
Yes, not every fan. Some fans don't mind, and some fans would rather not. Would rather not it happen. And I I don't really see the point myself, right? As I kind of feel, right, they were doing it last year, fine. But it's now got to a point where you got to say, all right, but what else? Right? Because I think if that's all you're doing, then it's pointless. Right? Because you're kneeling to try and stamp out racism and all of this from the game, but it's like it's not going to do it. You're going to have to do more than kneel to stop people shouting racist things at a game. So I am slightly baffled, right? Why they are doing it. I'm like, think of something. Do something else, right? You surely have some campaigns. Do something to get rid of this, to change the narrative, like as a behavioral change process. This ain't really doing shit.
Is there an argument to say that it keeps it in the public eye and in discussion, and people don't just don't find, means it's not moved on from too swiftly, a bit like, I don't know, the NHS clapping thing. It's sort of, I have different reasons why that kind of died out, but and also I was thinking, because they've got a game with Croatia, is it, I think, next, and we might have well, we do have our problems with racism in this country, but they're kind of, there are countries which have it much worse, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, for real.
May well be one of those, I would say. So maybe there's some thinking of a kind of there's a sort of, I don't know, it's kind of, building an argument here, but they as a team from representing England, they're representing a certain attitude towards a problem, and taking that to countries where it's even more of a problem, and so being slightly provocative.
I mean,
and that I could kind of imagine as a motivation in itself, almost.
Yeah, but the European champion, they're in this country, I believe.
Yeah, that's true. But
so
but it's, I mean, it's the TV viewers, isn't it? That's gonna, it's the mass of people that experience it will be watching it remotely.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's
true.
symbolic. It's still, it's this symbolic act that keeps the conversation alive.
But I think you need to vocalize what the act is for. So because I don't watch, like, I don't watch football because of the racism, right? I remember as a kid, I was an avid Arsenal fan, right? I remember I was watching the game when we beat Liverpool, Michael Thomas, got the winning goal at Anfield, and it was incredible, incredible, and I loved it. I loved football, watched it all the time, and I went to two games. And they were not good experience. I got chased out of Highbury by a bunch of Blackburn fans, and also I had a lot of Newcastle fans screaming different expletives at me, and no one did a thing. Like the way I escaped the Blackburn fans was jumping on a tube train. You know what I mean? And it was just like, I was just like, hey, you know what? Nah, I'm done. What am I doing? I can't be bothered. You know what I mean? So that's why I stopped. And it's like a knee, that's nothing. You know what I mean? Knees aren't stopping the use of words, right? So for me, look, you look at the situation like this, right? You had all that talk of the, I want to say, was it the European Super League? I think that's what it was called. That was going to happen, and they shut it down. UEFA, FIFA, they all came together and were just like, no, we're not having this. Shut it down in a week or so. And I'm a bit like, all right, you can do that, but you can't kick racists out of football. Like, what the fuck? Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing? I think it was Italy or France. I forget which one it was, but they were doing a campaign on racism, and they painted a load of apes. Right? They were like, yes, we're against, because it's a big thing about, black players really get it in Italy and France. And so, but they used apes. And it was just like, wait, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing? And it got signed off by so many people. Like, so many people. You're just like, and then when it got pointed out at a news conference, then it was just like, oh yes, this is unacceptable. And I'm like, but you signed it off.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So it's just like, I feel that, all right, you wanted to take a knee in solidarity to what was going on last year. Fine, I get it. But there is so much more that needs to be done.
There is, but don't I'm slightly not devil's advocate, because there isn't really an advocacy. But,
yeah, no. To be fair, racism in football, it should be allowed because,
But there's a kind of, by English team, mixed race, they're together. They're going, we are keeping this on the table, and they have power in that, that they're top flight footballers and the rest of it, and people look up to them. So you got to imagine this is from like really young kids to really older people set in their ways or whatever, and they're saying, no, this is the position, and it's literally a position as well, sort of a combination of deference and like, it's quite a strong position to be in as well, physically. And Yeah, I don't know. Part of it, and one thing I was thinking about as well is okay, the stadiums aren't full, are they? But when they describe, and I've not watched any matches, but when they describe the thing of like the booing starting and then this wave of applause that counters it, and I thought that's a really powerful thing, and it's like that's really like in a stand-up show or something, comedian's like pushing an edge, and you can kind of hear the tension, and then when they flip it around, it's like everyone laughs, and it's redeemed kind of thing. And I felt kind of proud of the crowd for putting more, much more applause in than these feeble boos, and the people that are booing, and the various reasons given that article, I just thought I can't support those reasons. They just sound like,
oh, the reasons are bullshit.
Same old privilege, really, of like, well, you've never had to suffer that, have you? So what are you? They feel the shame. They want it to go away, and they just think, oh, that's been dealt with. Let's move on, get back to the normal. And it's like, no, well, it can't go back to normal, can it?
Yeah, no. The reasonings that were given are ridiculous and rubbish. But I just, for me, right, it's just as a thing on its own, it doesn't do enough. Right? It was like when everyone posted a black square on their social media. I'm just like, but what the fuck does that mean? Like, that means nothing, right? The things that mean something are when I'm walking down the road and, someone is shouting abuse and someone, goes over to them and tells them that their friend pulls them up and goes, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, shut the fuck up, rather than just carries on walking with them and maybe like looks down in embarrassment. I mean, like,
is there a kind of, by the England squad doing this thing, aren't they sending a clear message to the people that are inclined to do that, saying, oh, mate, don't be such a dick, And these fans that pay to go to these things, they must admire their players, so presumably they listen to what their players.
But I kind of feel though, right? Because we're always told about this camera technology, and supposedly they've got it at all the stadiums. Otherwise, you can't be a Premier League team unless you have these certain capabilities, right? So they can pinpoint fans in their seats. So the minute someone says something, out, kick them out, ban them, right?
Ejector seats.
Yeah, but they've got the capabilities of finding those people. Ban them, kick them out then and there. Don't wait till the game is over. No, just get rid of them. I think that speaks more. That's more of an action, right? Yeah. Because we're seeing things being done now as an isolated thing. This knee, it doesn't, it doesn't go far. It doesn't go far enough for me.
It doesn't go far enough, but it's what those players can do.
No, but they can do more. No, but they've all got platforms. They could do more.
They could do more, but if they just abandon the knee thing, maybe everyone was thinking, oh, and then it was all fine, and we can keep just like carry on as we were. But they're saying no, we're sticking to this principle, and it keeps it. I mean, that's the thing. I just feel like it keeps it on the table, and it keeps a discussion going, and it keeps it in the public eye, and that's, I'm sure those booing fans would love it just to go away. Then they could just carry on and think, oh, see, it was fine all along, and nothing would have changed. But at least with this, there's a kind of anyway, I want to bring in Julia's point.
Oh yes. What did young Freud say?
I told her what we were going to be talking about. So I said something about punching the crocodile, about Kim Jong-un, and she says, I find it definitely more heroic to rescue your sister from a crocodile than bending your knee for George Floyd in a group. And I think that the key thing here, because I know her well, obviously, is this group thing.
Well, yeah, because
really allergic to this idea of like a kind of people, they're, like you said, this sort of tokenism or doing things because you think you should be seen to be doing something.
Yes. No, but that's it really, because the teams will say our players are going to be kneeling, right? So you don't, just because they're kneeling, it doesn't mean they actually believe in all of this stuff. I mean, like when we see everything that went down last year, right? There was these times when you saw a police officer get down and kneel with all of these protesters, and everyone applauded. And then there was one guy that sent a letter internally and was just like, "Guys, you know what? Listen, I took a knee with those protesters. I feel sick to my stomach. I shouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? I only did it to get them off my back. I don't believe in that shit." You know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Because you're doing something, but you're internally, you could be thinking all manner of different things. And that's what that police guy was. He didn't care. It was just like, well, this is going to appease people, so I'm just going to do this thing. And it's just like, yes, like them doing it, it's just like...
It sounds like he could have also put that letter around internally but in the same motivation to say, oh, I didn't really mean it, I was just doing it to appease it. I mean, how do we know where he's coming from? Really?
I don't know, man. That's a crazy thing.
To operate on like good faith. I tend to think the best people, and I can't believe that I find it hard to believe there are people in the England squad that are like would be feeling really, really uncomfortable with it, because it basically, I mean, you said it doesn't mean anything, but even so, it's sending a message, and the message is good and required, isn't it? So.
But there was that England player. God damn it! Something Savage. I mean, he's something Savage. His name was. I forget who the fuck he played for. It was years back when I watched the game, right? But he said racist things to players, right? So it's sometimes you get people will claim one thing, but then they've said other things.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you know what I mean? This is my thing about it. It's like there's been incidents where I think some players have supposedly said things, and it's hard to categorically go, yes, they definitely did that thing, because you know we don't have audio of what was actually said, right? But you know what I mean? You hear that. But then suddenly the next week they're taking it in. You're just like, wait, hold on a second. So you'll use it there, but now you're against it here.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's a bit like it for me. It's like Lewis Hamilton, right? Lewis Hamilton came out last year and was just like, you know, Formula One. It's very white, and I'm just a bit like, have you just realized that? You know what I mean? It's just like, Lewis, you've been in this sport for like a decade, if not longer. I forget how long, but I'm just like, and it's just occurred to you that you know, it's not a very diverse sport, and you're the only. I think he's the only black driver. You know, and there's like I think a couple of women floating around, but not really on an actual team. You know, you've got some test drivers, but no official, you know, female on a team. And it's just like, you like, for the only reason you were there is because what the Williams dude sponsored you, right, and brought you into it and along, right? If it wasn't for him, you wouldn't be where you, because you didn't have the money to do that, because you need money to do those sports. So it's just a bit like, it's not news. This is something everyone has known forever. So for you to come out now and make all of this big thing, it's just like, but why weren't you doing something about, trying to do something about it back in the day? Like he's been at the top of that sport for years. The top of that sport for years. He's been in, like, he's in positions where he can say to a team, I want that person as the second driver. Like, he's vetoed drivers. So he's got power in the sport. So if he really wanted to go, man, like, we need to make some changes, he could voice those concerns, but he's never done it until this point.
Yeah, but then I guess there was suddenly we were in there was a cultural shift, wasn't there, of sorts where he felt he could say that without, I don't know. I mean, I guess he's also like anyone, kind of protecting his privilege and his job and whatever. And but no, I totally take your point. But I'm just trying to sort of put myself in his shoes and think, well, also he wouldn't have had any. I mean, if there's so few black drivers in the sport, then he wouldn't have had any option to choose.
No. But what I mean is, right, so now he's just like, oh, you know, we're going to start a scholarship and try to bring more in and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just like, you've had the position and the money to do that for years, but you haven't. You know what I mean? And that's my kind of thing. It's just like, you're saying it now and you're all disgruntled because I think in Formula One, they gave the drivers the option. So some kneel, some don't, right? And he's just like, everyone should be kneeling. Everyone should be doing this. And some are just like, well, no, but I do other stuff. Right? I do all this charity work and I do all of this and I Big Brother and I do all of this I'm not kneeling. Right. And and if you're doing all that other stuff, then boom, I respect that. You know, because you're not just doing this thing for the show, you're doing the shit when the cameras aren't on. Right. And that's what counts. But it's just like, for all of these years, when he could have been trying to influence things, he hasn't. So it's just like,
well, not that the public's aware of anyway. It's not that we know. I mean, who knows what goes on?
No, but I kind of feel
I think they're just in like saunas drinking champagne, are they? Like, wow, I went really fast.
But it's just like, you know, he's been in the news talking about, I'm making clothes now. You know what I mean?
That's it. He's doomed.
Yeah, but he's talked about all of this other stuff, but he's never voiced any concerns about diversity in the sport until now.
Can you imagine being like at that level of whatever you're in, and then you're gonna have a publicist, you're gonna have an agent, you're gonna have someone telling you this and that, and they're all going to be, presumably they're all, you know, white people who think they know better because this is how it's always been and this is how it's done. And I mean, you know, you must have had that said to you. I mean, loads of people have had it said to them like, this is how it's done. That's no, Matt, it's not how it's done. It's done like this. You just go, I don't fucking care if it's done like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's other ways of doing it.
Well, I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's just like, are you prepared to say something? And I've said things, and don't get me wrong, right? It has definitely not been a good move a lot of the time, right? I've been in, you know, organizations, and I have complained about stuff, and then I find my contract has not been renewed. you know what I mean? And it's just like, I understand, but it's just like, I'm not gonna say it. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, I'm tired. right? It's just like, you know, dealing with, you know, racial abuse literally every single day for the first 23 years.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Because like you live in that idealistic notion early on that no, we can all get along and it's all gonna be fine. And if you just say it, and then you realize, oh no, it doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you know what? I'd rather say something and, you know, get fired than not say something and work in a situation that's full of shit.
Yeah.
But I understand that, you know, there's one place I worked and yeah, I had a racist boss and it was me and this other black guy. And when I went up against him, he was like, you know what? I need a job. I'm not going to say anything. And I was a little disappointed, but but I was like, yeah, I get it. I'm not gonna throw you under the bridge, but but I
usage English now.
But yeah, I don't know. It's an odd situation.
It is. I would have thought. I mean, what's your guess? I mean, I think they'll keep it going until they can drop it.
Yeah.
But at the moment, there's a sort of digging in with it, and my instinct is that it's too soon for them to drop it. I don't know. That's my feeling. I don't find it to be meaningless because it keeps it in my mind as well. Even if I watch football, I'm aware of it because it's a headline, and then I just think, yeah, actually. And there is a thing. I mean, one of the points made by one of the fans in the article was, "Hey, this is sport. This is England. We're all used to like mixed culture, and politics doesn't come into sport." And I thought, well, the flip of that is let's make a point. Let's emphasize the fact that there is this cultural mix in football, and that's where it does kind of work in some way, and they're showing solidarity in their team. You know what I mean? There's a sort of I don't find that to be meaningless. And that's
but that comment,
more interested in football actually, because I think, well, actually, yeah, if they're gonna like wear it on the sleeve a bit, I'm more interested.
But that comment that is just not true. Like politics are in sport all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
like, way wishful thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, like I think anyone that says, oh, like because I saw someone go, hey, I think when anyone pulls on the jersey, they're just England. I'm just like, but that's not true. Like, you are lying when you say that. There have been so many games.
It's so kind of my general feeling about English football is that it's basically so unpleasantly racist that I would be seen dead in an England shirt.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I wouldn't. I would never wear an England top. I would never have I was dating a girl one time, and
keep it clean.
It was all, we had a chaperone at every interaction. You know what I mean?
You could afford
that. But she wanted Union Jack pillows. I think we'd gone round one of her friends' houses and they had these Union Jack pillows. And she was just like, oh, when we move in, I'm gonna get some of those, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not at anywhere I live. I'm not having those. And it was just like when I explained my thoughts on the matter, it was just like, oh yeah, but I like them. And I'm just like, yeah, it's not happening. Like, look,
Yeah.
you can have, she was one of these people that wanted loads of pillows on the bed. I'm just like, I think it's ludicrous.
That's
but,
more of an issue, I think.
Yeah, but I was just like, it's ludicrous, but you can do whatever. But that is something that ain't happening. But then this is the same person that her parents had one of those, like cases with all the ornaments in. Right, and they had a set of gollywogs.
Oh no!
And like when some people, when you go and you're at their houses, their parents' houses, and then they talk, they're carving up what they want to take when their parents have died, but their parents are still alive, and it's always a weird one. It'd be like, oh yeah, when they die, I want those. I want that cutlery, and I want the candlesticks. And you're like, parents aren't even ill. Like they're still alive. They're still in full health. What the fuck are we doing here?
Sounds weird before the gollywogs in the chest.
Oh man, but yeah, and you're just like, oh yeah, I want to take those, and I'm just like, they would never enter a fucking house I live in. What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh man.
Is yeah, it was
odd. Is all I can say to that one.
Yes, but it's like it's kind of thing like so you've got the Australian swimmer, right, who has just withdrawn from the Olympic Games.
One moment, sir. I need to go and relieve myself. Is there a way of pausing this, or?
Yes, I will hit pause now. And we are back.
We are.
Yes. So yes. Madeline Groves. Madeline Groves. She I think she won a silver medal at the Rio Olympics in 2016. So, a decent swimmer. I mean, she did win it in the butterfly. Oh no, actually, yeah, I was going to say in the relay, but she also did an individual medal as well. So yes, we will give her that. But yeah, no, she's pulled out of the games. She's pulled out of the games because of perverts, she says. And I'm a bit like, that doesn't really hurt them. It seems to be more hurting her than hurting them.
And what does I see? I've not read the article through. So when is this in the same realm as sexual abuse and Me Too, and is it but she's calling it perverts?
I think, but she won't comment on it, but she says it's misogynistic perverts. So right, so supposedly she complained last year about someone, but she won't name the person, and she says because they made her feel uncomfortable, which, I mean, it can, that can mean so many different things, right? It's a little vague. And it's not saying that didn't happen. I'm just saying it, it could be like they could have touched her, they could have said something, like there's so many things that could have happened. It's a large umbrella, but she made a complaint, and yeah, it's kind of like it feels she's thinking that the Australian, federation haven't done anything, so she doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. But they're saying that they've contacted her on numerous occasions and she hasn't gotten back to them. So it's a bit like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I come from a position that I believe women when they make these claims. I mean, it's just a bit unfortunate this use of pervert, because like, for me that's some like has some slightly comical aspect to it, like 70s kind of. I mean, the 70s were awful. Let's face it, but it's like, oh, you pervert. It's kind of got this.
Well, yeah, you kind of
choice of words, but in another way, it's a really good choice of word, because I can only imagine that in swimming and professional swimming, there's lots of perving going on. I mean, everyone's in kind of costumes and yeah, of course, it's like. Well,
I think
dangerous territory here, but it doesn't surprise me in the least that there would be, like, you know, what she calls perverts in professional swimming.
No, well, look what's happened with gymnastics. The amount of people that have been, you know, taken to court, sacked, like all of that. You know, the doctors who have been, you know,
yeah, that's right,
being done.
Young women,
yeah, it's insane. It's insane, and that's in gymnastics, right? And to be under the illusion that it's only in gymnastics, you're an idiot, right? Yeah. As soon as those things came out, any, you know, forward-thinking, decent federation would have gone, we're going to look into our shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you would have thought. We are cleaning house. We are making sure that there are no rocks under our... No. There are no... What's under our bridge? Yes. There are no rocks under our bridge.
Throwing rocks under a glass bridge.
Yeah. That sounds like the correct analogy. But yeah, it's kind of shocking that they didn't. You know, they haven't done that. And to be fair, this isn't the first time that I've heard people have made complaints and they haven't been looked into.
Yeah.
You know, so like, and that's the English team. You know, and there was I feel her name's something, Claire Tweedy. I think she's I feel she was a gymnast, an English gymnast, and she was like, yeah, I've made all these complaints and nothing has been done. And then, you know, the federation came out and was like, no, we're just going to start an investigation. And you're like, she made the complaints like in 2018. What the fuck and you're just going to, like, what's happening here? So
yeah, yes, this is something I've picked up. You carry impatience for change, and which is not a bad thing at all. I just like human nature is like everyone's kind of going, is it me next? Are they going to come for me? Kind of. Sorry, I don't mean to undermine anything you've said. It's just I just think these things happen, like change happens painfully slowly, which is why I think I was saying that the knee gesture should be kept alive while it still has some punch, you know. So it keeps it in the conversation, and but if she's the first person to raise this as an issue also in swimming, then that's a really pressurizing position to be in, isn't it? Because there's people because we're both going, oh, of course it's in swimming, you know, but hadn't occurred to us independently, had it, that it was a problem in swimming.
No, I knew it was a problem.
No, it's like, oh yeah.
No, like I've known, like I knew a guy who's a swimming coach. Like I know, you know, and it's just being in sport, right? It's just like, you know, shit goes down. So it's not a surprise. It's just the fact that it takes so long for anything to ever happen, and then you get the officials come out and make statements like, we're shocked to hear this, and it was like, but it's a known thing. Like, to say, oh, we can't believe this. It's like when Weinstein finally got done and everyone was like, I couldn't believe it when I heard, and be like, that's been a rumor going around the industry for fucking years. Like, it's a lie to say I'm shocked. It's just like, well, we weren't prepared to do it. If you said we weren't prepared to do anything until now, that's a more realistic truth, right? That I'm more inclined, I will believe that, and I'd be more inclined to be like, okay, they're going to do something. If you were honestly just going to go, you know what, we just, I don't know, we dragged our feet, we fucked up.
Yeah,
say that.
Say, we were keeping the status quo to protect our own self-interest, but it's got to the point now where we can no longer sustain that position. We hold hands up and go, fucking sorry.
Like if
resign or whatever.
If they came out and said that, right? If they said, look, we realize that the number of people like participating in this sport isn't the best, and we thought if we came out and acknowledged this publicly, it would damage it. It would make things even worse. So we didn't. We've kind of been looking into things behind the scenes, but we kind of, yes, we understand we could be doing more. So now, fuck it, we're doing more, right? If you said that, I'm with you, right? But they're cowards. All of these people are fucking cowards. And the frustration is, it's like, look, I understand change takes a while, right? It's just like, I work on behavioral change campaigns all the time. And you don't run that campaign for a month, right? You run that campaign for a minimum of a year. But it's something that you have to keep in the public's mind continuously. Otherwise, they're gonna forget, you know, because it's, what did you do for me lately? Right? So
that sounds like a song title. You should write that song.
I might do for me lately. That.
A real hit there, isn't there?
But my thing is just the fact that these are things that have been known for years. They've been known for years and nothing has been done. And then you have people come out and act like, I didn't know that was a thing. I remember I moved into a flat share in Greenwich, right? It's when I moved into the area. I moved into this flat share and I noticed there was a leak in the laundry room, right? So I contacted the landlady and I was like, I just want to let you know there's a leak. And she's like, oh my gosh. Oh, thank you for telling me. I really appreciate that. I'm like, no worries, you know. I just thought, I saw it, so I wanted to let you know, right? And she's like, yeah, thank you. I'll do something. And I was speaking to one of my flatmates, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, just so you know, there's a leak in there, and and don't worry, I told the landlady, and she's just like, I told her a couple of years ago, and I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, that's been there ever since I've been living here, and I came here like 2 years ago.
Right.
But she just won't do anything, and it's just like, oh, right. And that's what this always seems like. You know, they act like, oh my god, there's sexual harassment, there's racism in our sport. We didn't know. Whoa, when it's just like you've known, you know. And even if you didn't know, when all the shit came out with the gymnasts and the wrestlers, right? Because it was the gymnasts last year. It was the wrestlers, I think, a couple of years before that. When all of that came out, you would think, oh shit, we need to look into our fucking sport. We need to make sure that everything is above board because we do not need that heat. But they don't. And that's the thing, and it's crazy. But yeah, but look, it's sad that Madeline Groves has had to withdraw, but I just think it's not like her withdrawing isn't hurting anyone. Yeah, I think if she was, I think the only way it would hurt, right, if she was, say it was Usain Bolt, right, at the height of Usain Bolt, and everyone is looking
my
for
birthday with as it happens.
Oh, interesting. Well, he shares it with you. But it's like everyone looks forward to him competing, right? It's a big thing. Like, is he gonna break a record? Is he gonna? But imagine, right? It's the lead up to the next Olympics, and he's just like, you know what? I am tired of all the, the shenanigans in the sport, so I'm not competing. Right? That's gonna be something. That's gonna have everyone go, fuck. What are they gonna do? Like, we want Bolt to compete, and all the sponsors are going to be like,
part of the problem, though, isn't it? It's because he's a guy.
No. What I mean is, because he's the top of that sport, right? He was the top of the sport. So like, for someone at the top of the sport to make a declaration, then it's going to be taken a certain way. But for someone that's not, it's just like, it's not going to change anything.
Yeah, but you got to factor in the gender aspect, because let's say, one of the Williams sisters decided to quit for similar reasons. That would have a big impact, but it would definitely have less impact because she's a woman. And I think
maybe, but right. They make so much money for
the power. The whole structure is like, it's abuse of power, isn't it, by privileged males, basically, go from the top down.
Yeah, but I think women, but women's tennis is more renowned than, say, women's swimming. Yeah, and the Williams sisters make a shit ton of money for Nike. I mean, they're like spokespeople for Nike. So if they were to withdraw, Nike is going to say something. So you need.
Also, I suppose tennis is slightly different as well, because actually it's one of the reasons I'm quite keen on tennis, and because I like the fact it's a bit like tap dances, and it's individuals.
Yeah.
And it's similar with swimming, but there's something in tennis which is kind of like, you hear of these, possibly abusive situations between players and their coaches, but it's kind of that comes across as more like a sort of personal relationship kind of wrangle or something. But yeah, well, I don't know what to say, but I guess so. Are you saying that because she's a reasonably successful swimmer, but not a big fish, that it's therefore a shame that she's resigning from it because it doesn't have a particularly big impact?
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to make the Australian Federation do anything.
No,
and that's the thing. And so the person that gets her is her, because it's like competing at the Olympics potentially could get her sponsorship. It gets her recognition. People will see her and know who she is and see the achievements and all of that, but not being there means she doesn't have that platform.
But perhaps it's less painful for her to to get out of it than to continue with it, and therefore she's being less hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, but she's still the one that pays. You know what I mean? It's like it's more on her than them. You know what I mean? Like any way you want to look at it, she's the one that comes out the shit end of the stick.
Yeah, and I think you're describing what the problem is right there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is the problem. That's the problem.
She doesn't have a choice if she's got the courage to like step up and say, no, actually this isn't on. And yeah, I'd be careful to think of it as like, oh, what a shame, love, you could have done so well, you know. Because she's actually making a stand. And
oh no, the stand is good, but the stand, it's not like at the Olympics they're going to talk about that stand, right? No, like no one's going to talk about the stand after this week. You know, and that's the problem. It's something that is just like, you know, and it's just like she had to do this.
Unless we decide to, you know, find the equivalent of taking the knee for her and keep it in the public eye. You know, I mean, it might be the start of something we don't know yet, because who knew? Everyone laughed at the suffragettes and said, oh, these silly women with time on their hands, and you know, and then eventually, you know, they changed the world. So or you know, the civil rights movement in America, there were small acts of defiance and everyone just went, oh dear, go back to your house or whatever. But you know, she might encourage others to come out, for example.
I mean, I'm just skeptical because thousands of women, right, Olympic champion gymnasts were getting sexually abused for years, made complaints, no one did anything. And it finally came out, right? It was so bad that the actual US Federation was dissolved, right? It was because it was so fucked up. They just banned the Federation. No longer exists, right? It was at that level. But they didn't look at women's sport as a whole and go, hold on a second, let's make sure that other poor girls and young ladies aren't getting abused in the same way, which is baffling to me. It makes no sense.
Yeah, no, it is absurd, because it's like suggests that, oh, this is a problem with gymnastics rather than this is a problem with male privilege.
Yeah, if a doctor in gymnastics will do that, he will do a similar thing. There's a lot of those doctors aren't just seeing gymnasts; they're seeing all manner of sports people.
Well, it will be I would imagine, it'll be any situation where you've got a senior and like an older male in charge of a young girl. Basically, that's the situation. I mean, I don't know, you can see that, extend that across to, you know, ping pong.
Oh, you know, I would have audited every fucking sport.
Yeah,
right. Every federation should have audited themselves. Like this is the thing, right? So in the work I do, there was a time when it came out that some researchers were getting kickbacks from Coca-Cola and companies of that nature, right? To write reports to claim that, you know, these foods and sugary substances aren't a contributing factor to obesity, which is bullshit. You know what I mean? But that all came out, right? And although it had nothing to do with us, right? It had nothing to do with the organization I was working for at the time, I still put shit out, right? I made it clear where we stood, how we handled these sort of things, where we got our money from, because you understand that could tar you, right? That's going to, because you're in that pool.
Yeah.
Right? That's your fucking industry. So for them to not go, that tars us as well, is insane. I mean, it's insane, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's not surprising. It's sad. It's disappointing. It's disgusting that this shit doesn't go addressed. You know what I mean? And I think that's my thing with this. It's just like, if the Australian Federation hasn't done anything now, to this point, I don't think they're going to do anything because she's withdrawn.
Yeah, but it's I believe a bit more in the kind of, well, I was going to say magic, but there is something about magic. She could be the start of a precipitation of something that we can't predict.
You mean the crest of a wave?
Yeah, because maybe it took, like in Hollywood, it took someone to come forward, and then people feel able to come forward following, and maybe that's her kind of what she'll be. It might be far from what you're saying. It might be that she becomes a kind of quite a well-known figurehead in a certain area for having done a certain thing, and, possibly. And that's, but I imagine, I don't know anything about her, but maybe that's a kind of gamble she's taking as well.
Maybe. I mean, all you can hope for is, yes, the Australian Federation does something. You know what I mean? I hope they do, but I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't.
No.
You know? I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't. But all right.
Just one thing I just occurred to me is, do you remember that there's quite a famous actually, I don't know if it's famous. It's famous in my head anyway. Johnny Rotten, in interview on, I think it's when he's first formed. No, I think he's still in the Pistols, but it's when the Pistols have kind of are in their dark sort of end days, and he's on interview on, I don't know what he's on, some TV show or BBC or something, radio possibly, and he starts to talk about the sexual abuse in the BBC. And he doesn't name anyone in particular, but he makes it very clear that it could be someone like, for example, Jimmy Savile on Top of the Pops. But he does it by taking on certain voices to indicate who he's talking about.
Right.
He basically flags it up, and this is like 77 or something, or earlier. So
there was someone else that did something similar. There was a few people that indicated that Jimmy Savile was a dirty piece of shit, but the BBC essentially covered that up.
Yeah, no, they totally covered it up, but he managed to get it sneaky, because he's a super bright guy, whether you like him or not, but he's very sharp, and he managed to kind of get sort of lodge that in a situation that they couldn't really edit out because it was part of some other package.
Yes. Yeah.
That was an example of someone taking the initiative to use their, and he had some sort of influence, but I don't think he's a particularly arrogant person, but I think he just thought, I have to speak up, because it's like he felt he had to say something.
Well, did you see the David Bowie interview on MTV?
No.
David Bowie was getting interviewed on MTV, and they made some comment, and I forget what it was, but he was just like, yeah, but your station is it was something like your station is racist. You don't play black music.
Mm.
And they tried to, be like, oh, David, you're so kooky. And he was just like, no. And he rinsed them. Like, he would not let them off the hook. He just gave it to them. And I was just like, yes, Bowie.
Is it a YouTube thing? Can I find it somewhere?
Yeah, I imagine it's on YouTube. Because I forget where it just came up. Because I'd never seen it. Because we didn't have cable really at my house. Like I got a weekend job when I was 15, and with the money I got myself cable so I could watch certain things. But it was just like, growing up, it was like, we didn't have that MTV and all of that, but so I'd never seen it until suddenly I saw someone put this thing up, and it was just like, fuck, that's crazy, man. That's big, because I think it was like a thing because MTV were claiming that they've always been something, and then someone put this up and we're like, are you sure? Are you sure?
Gosh, that must have been his kind of, was that sort of early 70s? So it's like his kind of like golden years.
It was 70s or 80s, I think.
Right.
When and I thought that was huge because he didn't have to, right? And that's what I think, right? When you're in these positions, when you do shit like that, you know what I mean? I respect the fuck out of that.
Yeah.
Because you're doing something. Because it's just like, that could fuck your shit up. But you don't give a fuck. But like you knew what Bowie was. It's like Bowie's married to I can't think of her name. For fuck. God damn it, man. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely, yes, she is. Oh,
Jesus. I can't think of the name. Oh man. This is gonna bug the fuck out of me. I'm lost, man. Oh,
because
she was a super
rendered mute by her elegance and beauty.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to, because it's gonna bug me if I don't.
And your listeners are going, ha ha.
Iman.
Yeah,
that's it. Iman. Yes, he's. So you knew, Bowie wasn't a piece of shit, but the fact that he, wouldn't let MTV get away with some shoddiness, I thought was great.
Yeah. Well, that's like I was saying. Music is justice, if not God.
Oh man. Hey, talking about gods.
I was going to say God for a second. I was like, oh no, we've got to the religious. This is the point when I have to do an online conversion.
No, there's a new royal. There's a new royal in our midst.
God save our great.
Yes.
I have to say, just before we go any further, that I know very little about the royal family except Princess Margaret, who I'm slightly fascinated by.
Oh no, she is fascinating as a motherfucker, right? Because she dies, and then it all comes out like, she would volunteer at these things and do all of this stuff that no one knew anything about. And I thought that's impressive as fuck, right? Because what always gets me is when you see one of these royals and they're like, oh, and they've gone to this old people's home and all of it, and it'd be like, but how did you know? Right? You've got all these photos. How did you know? Because they called and told you. Like, this is how this works. weeks. Like people will, their publicist will give you a call and go, if you're outside thingy thing at this time, you can get a shot of. And a lot of the time, as soon as the picture has been taken, they get back in their car and they go about their merry little day. So the fact that, old Margaret, she did all of this shit, but wasn't like, oh, I want it to be in the paper. I want photos. I want recognition. Like that says a lot.
And curiously, I also share my birthday with Princess Margaret.
Mm-hmm.
And Usain Bolt. So, but do you know this book?
I cannot see what it says.
It's by Craig Brown. It's so brilliant. I might just send it across to you. It's like the best book I read for some years.
Don't do that. Because
because
I can't. I do audiobooks because I can't see the print.
Well, it must be available as audiobook. But it smells nice though.
Yeah, remind me of the name and I'll see if it's on Audible and I'll possibly check it out.
If it is on Audible, I hope they've got the right person reading it because it's got a real tone to it. And it's well, like it suggests, it's 99 glimpses, so you get all these little different angles on her. And they're all kind of contrasting.
There's 99 glimpses, but a look ain't one. I don't. That was so bad. I feel shame. So much shame.
Totally on in the end. There's always editing.
No, it's raw and it's uncut. There's a new royal baby. Royal baby. But the thing is it though? Because I thought Harry and Meghan had left the family. I thought they'd been discommunicated. All right? Discommunicated. They were going to sleep with the fishes. Kaboosh!
I'm sure who you're referencing, but it's good. You should speak like that all the time.
That's my godfather.
Oh, okay, godfather. So you're saying, is it a new royal baby? Well, it's definitely a new baby. That's true.
I mean, well, no. And to be fair, today it's no longer a new baby. It's just a baby. Yeah. The new is gone. It's only new for a few seconds when it gets spat out. Then it's just baby. Technically,
It's young infant. But is it royal? Is that what you're getting at? Is it royal?
I have no clue. But I thought they'd left. So it's like I don't know, to be honest. But they've called it Lilibet Diana Monabonton Windsor. That's the name. And you kind of think to yourself, how did they come with the name? You know what I mean? They were sitting around, their palatial, home, and they're like, what should we call this thing? And they're like,
it's Lilibet is the Queen's
nickname,
isn't it?
Yes, but
from what's his Prince consort was him just gone to heaven, gone to the dole office in heaven.
Yes,
and then the Mountbatten thing is.
I think that was Diana's name, wasn't it, or something? Wasn't it? Before
Lord, I mean, this is really stretching my knowledge of royalty. Lord Mountbatten. So there's another line. I'm surprised there's not a kind of something in there for the over. German connection.
Yeah. But you kind of feel that they were sitting around thinking of a name, and they were like, we want something that something that screams entitlement but doesn't slap you around the face with it. I mean, like, what says I'm better than you? You know what I mean? Something that says I've got money, you haven't. Nah, 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 nah. Like, what name embodies all of that?
Yeah.
Lil Bit. Yes, that's it. Let's call it Lil Bit. You kind of thinking that because, god damn, that's a name. That's a name.
So I'm guessing you're not a natural royalist then. Have a coronation mug.
No. I am not one for
the
family royal.
Going back to the Union Jack pillows. You were talking about we were talking about Union Jack pillows earlier. I will fess up, a Union Jack duvet cover. But the reason for that is that there's a different trajectory through the Union Jack, which is...
Was it the God Save the Queen album?
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was the whole mod thing for The Who. Kids Were All Right. They played around with the Union Jack as a sort of... They preceded the punks in taking the flag and kind of using it in a gently disrespectful way.
Yeah.
So that was my association. Yeah, anyone from a very different background coming into my bedroom when I was 11 and seeing this little white boy under a Union Jack duvet cover might have come up with some other conclusions.
I knew I couldn't trust that Hulse boy. He's always looked dodgy to me. But yeah, I just kind of feel with this one though, they were just happy that Philip is no more, because there's not going to be any story in the paper of someone asking about skin tone or anything like that. It's just like, whew, we done. He probably told her, hold it in. He's not going to be around for much longer. Just keep your legs together. Hold that motherfucker in a few more months.
Honestly, it's so shameful, the whole thing. But what's your feeling though about Harry and Meghan, like their stance and their sort of aligning with the US and everything?
I think they're kind of full of shit, to be honest with you. I mean, because I'm just like, right, when your family is a bit racist. You know what I mean? Right? The amount of times people have been like, oh, you come over. And you're like, all right, before we go in, like my uncle, he says some things, but he doesn't. He's harmless. Don't worry about. Like, people know.
Yeah.
Right. People know. So to kind of be like, he didn't tell her. He's a piece of shit. Right. If that never happened, if he didn't sit her down and go, Meghan, my dear, I should let you know something, right? My parents, well, let's just say my lineage, we were Nazi sympathizers. We were, we've been in the slave trade. We've had a checkered past, old Meggie. We've had a checkered past. So, you might come in the house, right? You might come in the house. There will be Union Jacks. Yeah, there will be. There may be a gollywog somewhere in a cabinet, right? But Philip might say something a little off key, but they're harmless. All right, so come round for crackers and some Bucks Fizz, all right? And we'll chew the fat, right? Like, if he didn't sit down and tell her, right, that the fam was a bit fucking dodgy, then he is a piece of shit.
But, I mean, we can only be conjecturing it to imagine their pillow talk, but he must have. Don't you think he would have? What he's saying it isn't he trying to say it now? It's kind of
Like,
trying to align himself in a different way. I mean, I
yeah,
don't know
but that's like too late. You know what I mean? The barn door is open. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck?
Maybe that's why they felt they had to get the hell out of here somehow. But God, you know, but it's just like I was saying earlier. It's like there's going to be advisors and all these people that kind of Max Clifford types, whatever that put you in a certain.
Well, yeah, because then the royal family came out with statements, so they brought in their black cleaners to be like, we're not racist. Look, we got a black friend.
I was going to say, yeah, even some of our cleaners are black.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they can't touch the silverware. We don't let them in that room. You know what I mean? We're not crazy. The crown jewels, they get nowhere near those. But we let them on the grounds. You know, we can't be that bad.
Yeah.
We sang Free Nelson Mandela when that song was trendy. You know, we're not evil.
Hey, don't knock the special AKA. In fact, don't. I know you've reminded me of that's so catchy, isn't it? Yeah, it's a, and you know, for another episode, maybe we could talk about the Commonwealth as a whole.
Oh, days. Yeah. That's something right there.
I'll do a month's research on it, right? So I sound like I know what I'm talking about.
I mean, like when people say, "Oh, what time?" You know, if you could go back in time, where would you go? I mean, like to Versailles and maybe stop some of the bullshit that went down and have caused so many issues right now because that Treaty of Versailles. Oh, that put the cat amongst the pigeons. That really fucking did. You know what I mean? Jeez. Not good. Not good at all. But yes. I think we might have outstayed our welcome, Matthew.
Wow. Yeah. By the next time we get together, there will have been the EU sausage war. I'm looking forward to that one. That seems brilliantly absurd.
I mean, it like
meat. None of this would be an issue at all because all the bargaining chips would be removed.
I mean, it does just seem that it's just, you know, a private school game, right? You've got Malcon, you've got you know, Johnson. You know what I mean? They're just going to be in the private bathrooms and they're playing lightsabers. That's what the sausage war really is. Okay? That's what you kind of is be like. You know, like what the fuck are they doing, man? What the fuck are they doing? It's
a good question. I don't know. Having a lot of fun at our expense, I think.
Yeah, it's like, let's think of a ludicrous subject so we can hole it up in a nice swanky hotel for a few days and pretend we talked about something meaningful.
Yeah. Hey, the G7, right? Just quickly, has that officially has that happened already?
I think it's just about to happen.
Okay, well then there's something I can't tell you about until the next episode.
All right. We'll
You know,
cover.
it's powerful direct action
Oh, oh,
by people known
okay.
to me.
Okay. All right. We'll do.
Genius.
We'll touch base and do G7.
Yeah, we'll do G7, Commonwealth, and what was the other one? Tennis.
Yes. And we are gonna hit all the favorites, man. We're gonna do a motherfucking world tour. We're gonna correct every wrong that has ever happened. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Echoes from the Void is gonna be saving the world, one point at a time.
I think so. And if anyone's managed to hear to the end of this, we love you.
Well, I mean, yeah, it all depends. There's caveats in that.
You're giving your love out rationally.
Yes, it's a commodity. I've got barely any love in my system. I can't just hand it out willy-nilly. There's no frivolousness with this, Matthew. I need something to keep my cold heart warm at night. So I'm going to keep that love inside.
Fair enough.
Well, I appreciate you sparing the time.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And can also include the next time Jeanette Winterson burns her own books in protest at Cozy Little Blurbs.
Yes, we all hit that and the other things.
Groovy.
All right. Well, I salute you, Squire. Thank you very much,
Squire.
Over and out.
Sir Kevin Scott.
Peace, Mr. Hulse.